say, what should it look like? And rather than complain, we're going to be a part of the change. To see and embrace all that's happening here. Let me tell you how we got started. Our forefathers, our predecessors, about 15 years ago, purchased the cement factory which is adjacent to our city park. 22 acres of additional park space. And so we said, oh, my name's Johnny Chris, by the way, I'm sorry. I'm mayor of the city and we're so grateful you're here. We're getting more chairs around. And so we set out to design what we wanted in the new park space. And along the way, Jenny, city manager, we're over here, that's just an incredible leader in the city, she said, I think this is bigger than us. So she called her old friend, colleague from Savannah when she was on the team down there, Ian Lockwood, not an old, that was not in any way, it was just, you've been friends for a very long time. And so Ian got on a Zoom call with us, and in about 30 minutes, we were Ian fans. I mean, I don't know anybody who's received a PhD in urban design. I find that quite boring, personally. But he eats, drinks, and sleeps this whole concept of what makes cities friendly, what makes them lovable, what makes them a destination, what makes a person want to sell everything to go live in that city. How do you interact in a city? And so we said, this is so big that we want to engage Ian with the city of Lilburn and his team, Christina and Eric, out of the 35 offices they have around the country. They picked the 2 top people that would help us because of parks and greenway trails and making a city mobile. And so tonight, we're not going to tell you what the city's going to look like in 20 years from now. You're going to tell us. This is going to be a conversation. Ian will set it up with giving you the sense of what really happens when cities come alive and what's necessary for them. And then, I don't know what's going to happen, but everybody's got some drawing paper. I don't know what that even looks like. So, Ian will explain it to us. So we are so grateful that you've taken your time tonight to come and be a part of this big conversation. It's going to happen all week. We have various meetings that we've asked you to sign up to enjoy. And by Friday, we're going to have a big picture of where things go. So would you thank and give it up for Ian Lockwood.
Hello everybody. So all 12 people came out as promised, I see. This is great. It's a really big group. I'm not a natural public speaker, I'm an engineer, but I'm going to do my best to walk you through what we'll be doing over this week, and then there'll be an exercise for everybody to participate in. And so let's get started. So I'm Ian Lockwood, I'm a transportation engineer, urban designer. And we have Eric and Christine over here. They're going to be the other 2 people in the team. And we're going to try and translate your values that we hear tonight into a plan for what we're calling the kind of the downtown area. And I'll go through what that means as well. So just by introduction, we're with a group called Toole Design Group. And we write a lot of books, standards, mostly to do with bicycle accommodation, pedestrian accommodation, walkability. We turn ugly parking lots into beautiful squares. We turn underperforming main streets into highly performing main streets. We turn, this is one of our highway removal efforts, we're turning this interchange into a waterfront park, a housing area, and a little main street. And tonight, so that's the sorts of things we do. And this exercise all week is called a charrette. It's a French word that means cart. And the origin of it goes back to the 1800s. The story is by a guy named Nobody Knows For Sure. And so it was a university in Paris where the strict professor gave some students a deadline. And it was the project was due at 5 o'clock and it was 1 o'clock, so the students had 4 more hours. And here the students, they figured they had 3 more hours of work to do, but it would take them 4 hours to get to the university, so they're going to be late. So Gaston had this great idea that we'll jump into the cart and work while we're moving. And so a charrette means you have all the resources in the room, all the people, all the maps, all the information, and you have a definite deadline with all your materials, and at a certain time you'll have the plan done. So our deadline is Friday afternoon, and so we have to have everything finished by Friday afternoon. And we're working in City Hall in the Preston room, so that's where all the rest of the events will happen except for tonight. And they got there and they lived happily ever after, so that's the end of the story. So it's really a collaborative workshop, and when all the resources gathered together to help develop a design by a predetermined deadline. So here we are, and we're right in the church. Where is it? Right in here. There's City Hall, there's Old Town. Does everyone know where we are? Yeah. Okay, great. So these are the places we're going to be looking at over the week. We're going to be studying your street network through the whole area to see if there's opportunities for increased connectivity. We're going to focus on the park area, public land down by the railway track. We're going to concentrate on the Old Town portion of the city park, which is right near your Main Street. We're going to be looking at Main Street and trying to figure out how to better connect the City Hall area with Old Town. It's almost a mile down along that way, so it's quite walkable. We'll be looking at West Old Town because there's activity going in there and maybe there's some opportunities there. And then we'll be looking at Lawrenceville Highway, Route 29. And in particular, we'll be looking at what we're calling the Uptown area, the suburban places on all the 4 corners here. And then, of course, the entrance sequence into your Main Street in your downtown. So those are the parts we're going to be studying over the course of the week. The schedule this is tonight, so this is our community workshop. And then we're going to finish at a presentation at City Hall, starting at 2 o'clock. So if you want to see what we come up with, that's our deadline. And then if you want to come in the meantime, on Wednesday, from 3 to 5, we have what's called an open studio. So you can just pop in for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, anytime during the 2 hours. You don't have to come for the whole 2 hours, just whenever you want. Look over our shoulder, see what we're doing. There's no presentation or anything. You're just going to come in and see what's on the wall, see what's on the tables, see what's going on, ask questions, give input, whatever you want. Quite casual. And so those are the 3 opportunities over this week for public input. And then in between these times, we have lots of different meetings with different stakeholders, property owners, business people, city officials, county people. We have, there's plenty of interest in this project, and probably many of you in the room are part of that. So we're going to have a very busy week. So a vision is a consensus on what the place ought to be like. Not what it is or not what it might be, but what it ideally should be. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight and this week. How do we help the place evolve to where the community agrees on what the place should be like in the future? This is what your current vision says. It's a vibrant city where businesses prosper, where safety is a lifestyle, and where friends share life together in a community that will span generations. That's a pretty cool vision. So we're going to build on that. You also have policies and priorities. Here's some of them that you've adopted as a city. To grow responsibly towards a vision. So establish a vision for development, land use, parks, connectivity, with overlay districts with special guidelines, and then to start addressing traffic congestion as well. Number 2 is to be a pro-business city with a variety of high-quality businesses and employers. I think I spelled that wrong. And then establish an economic development strategy, transform US 29, Lawrenceville Highway, to attract high-quality retail and restaurants, and to redevelop at least one of the strip malls. And so this is kind of your 5-year plan. Create a magical downtown destination. This is my favorite part. We're talking about Old Town, Lilburn Park, your Main Street, kind of the roots of your city. Make it people-centric, improve the park, transfer the DDA-owned properties into active destinations owned and operated by the private sector, and to become a top destination in Georgia for activities in the month of December. I'm assuming very special things happen here in December. Build public trust and engagement. So this is what this is about. Increased communications. Let's see, engage the public. Those are the two important ones for tonight. Protect the community. Of all these things, I think the most important one for us tonight is reduce crashes through traffic enforcement. But there's more than just traffic enforcement that can reduce crashes, fatalities, and injuries. We can have better street designs. We can have safer speeds. We can make multimodal transportation feasible. We can have trails and that sort of thing. So, and then there's some other priorities we found in your documentation as a city. Stuff that we haven't talked about: reduce the barrier effect of Route 29, reduce the cut-through traffic, avoiding I-85. We've already heard that some people don't like the congestion on 85, so they cut through your community and other communities. They're not stopping here, they're just going through as fast as they can. Expand the trail network, expand the tree canopy, and change the sort of the automobile-oriented dominated land use along Lawrenceville Highway to things that are more community-oriented. You have lots of attributes, great Old Town charm. You've got the park, you've got the Greenway Trail, you've got a great Parks and Rec group, your diverse community, you've got good schools, you've got the temple, the Wayne Russell House, proximity to Atlanta and Stone Mountain, and you have developer interest. And I want to focus on the latter thing. We work in a lot of cool cities, and a lot of people just want to freeze it, don't change anything. I'm happy the way it is, stop development. Unfortunately, there's things called property rights, and there's rules about what you're allowed to do. And so the idea is, if you just object to everything, change will happen to you. But if you participate like you are tonight in visioning, you can help shape the change towards something that you would prefer, something that you would like. And so that's the idea, is to document our values and our direction and help shape the change so the city will get even better than it is today through these changes we've been talking about. And then we went on a site visit today, and I don't know who's going first, but we're going to just describe what we saw on our site visit.
Thanks, Ian. So, Christine and Eric, does this mic work as well, I wonder?
Yes.
Oh yes. Okay, great. So Eric grew up in this area, but this is my first time to Lilburn today, this afternoon. I came down Indian Trail through what folks have been calling Uptown, and then came over to City Hall, and we left on our site visit from City Hall, and we were just noticing the walking map. So we went out to Killian, came around through the Nantucket neighborhood, and then up Main. So anyways, we're going to take you on a little tour of what we saw, so you know what I've seen so far. So here's coming out of the Nantucket neighborhood, turning up, we went up Main.
Yeah, and
So maybe I should stand over here.
yeah, so so we don't. Okay, thanks for bearing with us. Yeah, so at the southern end of Old Town, obviously the CSX tracks are a bit of a barrier, a boundary for the southern portion of the park. And then as you head up, you've got this great amenity, the Camp Creek Greenway. We love the proximity to the park, the proximity to Old Town. Ian spoke about developer interest. I mean, this is one of the things that clearly has people interested and excited. And then going up Main, lots of great detailing here, lots of opportunities. Like this has some elements that are really, really great. We also saw opportunities for improvement in terms of making it feel like an even more comfortable place to walk. So this image is kind of a tale of two images, really. A a sidewalk that has some nice detailing, but unfortunately it's fronted right up against the street. And then the city park it's fronted by a lot of parking, so it's possible that it could be made more inviting. And you can kind of see more of that story. And then heading up Main, again, this is a lovely downtown environment. Has us excited about, can we get more of this? And I'm going to pass it off to Christy.
So you can see we went down Railroad Avenue to the west and saw the apartments under construction, and then we turned around and went back down Railroad to the east, and if you keep going, again, all the way, turned around as far as we could go down that way, and then came back out on Main. And just as before we kind of cruised up Main, just to build on what Eric was saying, that those parking lots really separated both the Railroad Avenue and Main Street from the city park. Was notable. Coming up Main Street, the businesses along Main here on the right, and the some setbacks over on the opposite side of the street, cruising up, looking down First Ave. And then we kind of wandered back, went over to First and Elizabeth. We were back in that neighborhood and wandered back the other way, came up, Lula. Apologies if I say anything, pronounce any names incorrectly. Please correct me. And then came up to the roundabouts, and I gotta say, both roundabouts looked the same to me as I was kind of cruising back through a couple times. But nicely landscaped roundabouts with signs pointing to tonight's event. And then went up to City Hall, and then we ended up on Lawrenceville Highway. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ian.
Yeah, with all the signs, I thought we were coming to the Super Bowl. So here we are. So this is Lawrenceville Highway, and we went up to, was it Alpharetta? Who they have a state road that they redid, and if you just compare the two, that's their highway, and that's our highway. So there is room for improvement, I would suggest, to turn it into a nicer place. Still 4 lanes in both cases. So they have some differences, 40 miles per hour versus 30 miles per hour, no street trees, those sorts of things. So the environment's different, the business environment's different, the vibe is different. The one on the right aligns with your vision and your values, that's already documented. And we'll hear tonight what you guys think about the highway as well. Now it's time for a quiz. So shout out if you know the answer. Where's the most important building in this place? Those are streets. Any idea? So where's the most important building on that slide? Right there, okay. Now you don't even know what city this is in. You don't know the climate, you don't know the culture. But we all know, just by the arrangement of the streets, that that's the most important site. Now let's say there's a park there instead of a building. Where are the most important buildings? Around the park, yeah, okay, so that makes sense, right? So this park has a lot of value, so you want to line it with important buildings. Now let's say a developer comes along and says, I own both sides of this street. I want the city to abandon the street so I can build this big development, and it'll bring a lot of tax money and jobs to the community. Is it a good idea to abandon that street? It's not, because streets do more than convey traffic. They create relationships, and the reason this is valuable is because these streets in every direction creates a relationship with that middle part. And if we close that, even that little bit, then it devalues everybody who lives up here because they no longer have a relationship to the most important part of the city. So it's like an extension cord. You know, that's a great extension cord, except that missing 6-inch part, you know? Okay, where's the train tracks? So it's right there, right? So if this is where the cool stuff is, the fact that that barrier is there devalues everything on the other side of the barrier. And this can be a train track, it can be Lawrenceville Highway. The idea is to reduce that barrier effect to create a relationship which would increase the value up here. So we don't like those sorts of barriers. We want to relieve them. Okay, this gets harder. So we've got 3 waterfront parks with a lake, and we have 3 block structures, all of the same dimensions, and they're all the same short dimension and long dimension. Now we're going to compare in B and C. Now B has a public street along the park, and C has half a block, so it's got private land along the park. Which one adds more value to the city, B or C? B, that's right. And that's because the park is public, it feels public. Here, if the private development is up to the park, then these folks are going to start wanting to control who uses the park, and they're going to probably face the park and put their backs to this street, so you'll have dumpsters and back of house stuff. And so that will be the type of street you'll have on the closest street to the amenity. So they'll front the street overlooking the park, and they're behind the scene stuff like dumpsters and servicing stuff will be in the alley. So this is a much nicer edge to the park. Now let's compare A and B. This has the long dimension of the block towards the park. This one has the short dimension to the block. Everything else is the same. Which adds more value to the city? The short dimension or the long dimension? Yeah, right, A. And the reason is because every property here has a relationship with the waterfront. When you get up here, the interior lots have no relationship to the amenity. So when you have a nice amenity, you want streets coming to it because they create that relationship, just like that original diagram with the circle in the middle. It creates that relationship and pulls the value throughout the city. So here's 2 lakes near Minneapolis. This one, the waterfront is been more or less privatized. Here, they're more public. Now, these vertical lines represent the value per acre of the property. And so the taller the line, the more valuable. And you can see how the veneer along the edge of the waterfront is very valuable, but it drops off really quickly. And here, where the waterfronts are public, the value goes deep into the community. So the idea is you want your amenities to be public and feel public, and the value goes into the city. So here's 2 parks. They're identical in size, they're identical in program. This one has houses facing it across the streets. This one have houses backing to it with the houses facing outwards towards the street. Which park adds the most value to the city?
Okay.
Wow, great, yeah. So it does, because then the value of the park goes up these streets. This value is kind of contained in this middle part. And there's no natural surveillance, so there's not people overlooking the park. So it kind of feels creepy in there. And I've heard that kids learn how to smoke right there in that corner, because there's nobody watching them. Here's a concept that's important for what we're talking about coming up. These are called A-fronted streets, the orange ones, and B-fronted streets, which are the blue ones, all A streets. Those are fronted with buildings, shops, houses, whatever is built on the street, they front. There's very few driveways so that the pedestrian system, the sidewalks are not interrupted. The B streets are where you have access to parking garages and parking lots, servicing and that kind of thing. And in a lot of places that are redeveloping, we try and get a network of A streets and B streets. You can still build buildings on B streets, but it gives you this really nice framework of highly walkable, valuable streets. And so when you build a building here, your neighbor knows that when they're building, that they're going to be up to the street. So it gives predictability to your plans. When you have an open space, you want to surround it with buildings, just like we saw with the park plan. And now sometimes these B streets are alleys, they're not actually streets, but you get the idea. So the back of house stuff happens on the alleys or the B streets, and the front of house stuff happens on the A streets, A-fronted streets. So this is what an A-fronted street looks like. 100% frontage, the facades change every 25 to 30 seconds. Makes a highly engaging street so people walk further and the businesses are more successful. This is a B-fronted street. You can see the parking garage on it. It's not very nice to walk past here, so that's why we make the distinction between the A and B frontage streets. So here's a Street, highly friendly place. And this is what we're going for. We want conflict-free sidewalks. So these B activities here are now on the A Street. So you have conflicts with the parking when in this development the parking is off the alley. So it's a much nicer walk. This is a collector street, same idea. This is a collector street that is much friendlier to walk along. And then it's applicable at all scales, so low density, medium density, high density, and super high density, the same principles apply. So you guys are going to be low density and probably medium density in places, and you really want that nice walkable environment. These are what we call high performing streets, whether it's a retail street, a high density street, a medium density street, a low density street. Very, very walkable place. This is what we're trying to avoid, you know, where you look down the street and you think, oh look, cars live here. Or you're crossing a lot of drivers on your bike, or you could get hit, or the sidewalk gets blocked. So I'm going to look at a couple of places that took a vision and went with it. This is South Bend, Indiana, right after World War II, where it was a high-performing city. And now if you look at that street about 10 years ago, that's what it looked like. So they knocked down about half of their buildings, the industry left, the people left, the economy tanked, crime rates went up, and this is a one-way fast street. And these high-speed streets exported the value of the downtown to the suburbs. So everybody with choice left the city and moved into the suburbs. So South Bend was declining, and we came to town and we noticed all these one-way streets. And these were designed to speed traffic through. That was the idea along these state roads, to keep the traffic moving. And but it really spoiled the downtown. It ruined the businesses, and restaurants closed. This is Main Street when we got there, a 4-lane, one-way thoroughfare with one restaurant open. All the rest had closed. Their idea of innovation was synchronizing the signals, so you never had to stop in town. Wow, as a business person, that's great, no one has to stop. And this is the waterfront back in the day. They had all these theaters and public activities, so they tore half of that down and built this highway. This is the other one-way street. This is one of the theaters. The other one was right here. And cut the community off from the waterfront. So we had a bunch of meetings just like this one. We created a vision. We drew a plan, which included a bunch of waterfront parks, but what I want to focus on are the streets. And that street, which is a 4-lane, one-way, look at the size of the light, holy Hannah. Fast street, surface parking lots, and we turned that street into that street. And it's a beautiful street now. These trees are actually quite large. People came back. Investment came back. This is a new hotel going in on a surface parking lot. So what we're trying to do is create a place. It's just not a thoroughfare. It's a place in the city that deserves a dignified street. And when we built one that was inclusive of all the different modes, investment and people came back to the city. This is just one of the streets, but we did all the streets similarly. This is a little town, population 16,000, just like you guys. But they have about half the tax base. This is a low-income, what they call, kind of a poor city out in the middle of nowhere in Texas. It's a farm country, and this town supports dairy farms. So that's their main street. And you can tell it was open because it says so right there. And this is their idea of ADA. Can you imagine trying to negotiate in a wheelchair? So now you've seen it. What is the #1 problem with that street? Any thoughts? Just shout it out. What's wrong with it? If you could fix one thing, what would you fix?
Landscape.
Landscape? It's ugly.
Not enough parking.
10 points! There's not enough parking. So when we got there, people gave us all these plans on how to increase the parking. If we just had more cars parked there, man, that would be great. So that's not the main thing that was wrong. That's the before picture. That's what we did with it. So that empty lot where the building had fallen down is this building here. Somebody who was involved in the meeting like this had a few bucks, and she She built this store with 3 condos up top. She lives right there, and she sits out there and watches Main Street. So all of these stores are now full. When we got there, was only a couple. The problem wasn't not enough parking. The 2 most important things on a Main Street is the width of the sidewalk and the street trees, and probably in third, slower, more respectful speeds on the street. And when we put those things in, local investment came. There's not a single national chain in their downtown. It's all local investment, and that means the money stays in town with a money multiplier effect. Whew, say that 5 times fast. So that's what happened. That building, the roof fell in, as you can see, turned into that one. And now they have all these cool events and everything. So if you fix the public realm nicely, private investment will follow. That's the pattern. And this is a cool story. In your vision so far, you've said you want a magical place in Old Town. I just want to tell you a little story about this lady here. That's obviously her wedding. She was walking down Main Street with the city manager looking for a venue for her wedding. And her parents were part of the project, and she watched it go from what it was to what it is now. And she stopped in the street and said, I want to get married right here. This street speaks to my values. I feel comfortable here. I'm proud of this place. Can you shut the street down and let me have my wedding here? So one Saturday evening, they shut the street down. She got married and had a reception there in the street. And Alan Jacobs, who wrote the book Great Streets, said that a great street is a street that moves you emotionally when you experience it. And that's what we want in Old Town. We want people to feel like they're in a really cool place and maybe even have their wedding there. So that's the Main Street I just showed you. And look at this is their square, their downtown square. Okay, what's the #1 problem? Not enough parking. That's what we were told. There's not enough parking. If you could just somehow get more in there, it'd be really good. So that's what it looks like on the ground. Like, do you really want to spend any time there? So we had lots of meetings, again, just like this one. And people drove better ways to park. Unbelievable. And so we got all these really cool plans on how to get more parking in there. And instead, we went from that to that. And so we took all those one-way streets and we made them into 2-way streets. These are flush streets, there's no curbs. And by the way, we got 1 extra parking space just because this was so efficient. So we actually didn't use any parking. And then this is the end of Main Street here, and I just want to point out, that's where we put the splash fountain because we wanted synergies between these buildings and the square. So sure enough, an ice cream shop opened up in this vacant store right there. And there's the kids having a great time. There's grandma watching her kids. So lots of nice seating around the place. The farmers market exploded. It became the most popular farmers market in the whole area. And then there's all sorts of events. There's almost an event there every week. There's places just to hang, watch the day. There's things for the kids to do, things for families. And we fixed the public realm with the community, and the private sector came in and rebuilt buildings. So now that's a restaurant, it was an empty drugstore for about 20 years, and with 3 condos up top. And the streets are flush, and these are what we call free-range children. Parents aren't afraid of their kids going downtown anymore on their bikes because it's safe and slow. And so these kids can come downtown, have their adventures like we did when we were kids. And then when you have events, this is just before the evening July 4th event. See those folks? Those are people I could see who had a mobility impairment. And the moment we made the square accessible for everybody, everybody came out. And every community has people with disabilities in it who don't come out often because they're not accommodated. And so it's just as easy to design your spaces to be equitable, and then everybody can come and enjoy them. And it helps the able-bodied people too, because you're not tripping on curbs and that kind of thing. And when you're having a big event, this is their biggest event, everybody can participate. You can, if you're pulling a truckload of Coke into a store or a restaurant, you're not bouncing on curbs. It just makes it more accessible for everybody. And then there's some serious things about public spaces too. This is their vets memorial, and everyone takes that really seriously. And then we found a really good home for it, but moving it was very emotional for the vets in the community. And so we worked with them, and we found, they said, don't move our monument, but we moved him. See, we're moving him here. We moved him out, and then we brought him back, and now he's got this really great spot in the square. And now the vets have a really nice environment to honor their friends. And they liked it so much that they raised $900,000 to build another vets memorial, which is right here. And all the names of all the, there it is back there. So notice the fun stuff is here, the more cerebral, solemn stuff is back there. And there's a Vietnam vet, and he's looking at one of his buddies. And it looks great at night too. So there's thoughtful parts, there's fun parts, there's flexible parts. This is by the splash pad. We have to have bathrooms, so we have 2 bathrooms. We made them out of mirrors. They actually fit in perfectly. They look exactly like the rest of the square because they're mirrors. There's this chessboard, but they're fun. The kids have a lot of fun with them. But the cool thing about these bathrooms is that when you're inside them, you can see out. They're one-way mirrors. So you're in there with your pants down, and there's 2,000 people around you. So these actually became tourist attractions. People from all over just to visit the bathrooms. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of things I could tell you about that square, but the idea is you just layer in the things to do, places to shop, places to live, places to do business, places to hang out, to meet your friends, to recreate, to have events. You want lots and lots of stuff to create a vibrant environment. So some of the attributes to create these sort of magical environments is you want them to be comfortable. People need to be at ease with their environment. You want them to be engaging, to hold people's interests. You want them to be accessible for everybody. You want them to be connected to the rest of the city through your paths, trails, and streets. You want them to be convenient, and what we mean by that is enough different land uses there that you can find what you need on a daily and weekly basis there, so you don't have to drive far away. You can find it right in town. And you want it to be legible so that people understand where they are, they get oriented, they can stay oriented, particularly visitors and tourists when they come into town. But comfortable is absolutely the most important thing. You need people to feel at ease in their environment. I just want to talk about this trail for a second. So this is a trail here. It's hard to see, but there's little like medallions on the trees to guide you there. My father was a park planner, and he always wanted people to experience real national parks. And when you're in a national park on a trail like this, you hear things, you see things, you smell things, and you feel them. Like this, the forest floor is soft. It's actually alive underneath you. So he wanted everyone to experience that so they'd be more inclined to save more national parks. But if too many people use that trail, it gets worn out, so they put down some stone dust. And if many people use that, they put down more stone dust. Now, the experience isn't the same. It's easier to maintain, though, but it's a little harder environment. And if too many people use that, they pave it. But now lots of people can use it, and it doesn't take a lot of maintenance. And you can even use it on your bicycle or in a wheelchair or something like that. But the experience is diminished as you go from a hard space to a soft space. And I remember listening to that at the supper table when I was a kid, but when I got into designing public spaces, I started thinking, yeah, there's something to this. So I looked at different hard spaces and soft spaces, and this is a prison cell. That's a hard space, I would suggest. Easy to maintain. You just hose it down. There's a living room. It takes a little more maintenance. You have to dust it and vacuum and rearrange the cushions and whatever, but people like to spend time on the right and not on the left. So I graphed it, being an engineer, and I decided, okay, the value is time is less here, the maintenance cost is here, and that's softer. So I graphed a few more. That's where I went to school. My chair was bolted to my table. Interesting, back in the 60s, every kid was right-handed, you can tell. And this is what a classroom looks like now. Kids learn a lot better, but it takes more maintenance. The chairs move around from the tables, but they can rearrange it in any way they want, depending on what's being taught. This is a hospital room. It's hard. There's a soft one. Apparently patients do better in a softer environment. This is McDonald's. Very easy to clean. A chair only has one leg in McDonald's because it's bolted to the floor. Everything's plastic. Easy for a high school kid just to wipe it down, no problem. This sit-down restaurant takes more maintenance, you have cloths and stuff. But you'll spend hours here and spend a lot more money than you'll spend here. This is designed to get you out, but it's easy to maintain. This is to make you want to go there and stay there. This is a park. It's a hard space, and there's a soft space, and that's a park as well. They're having an event there. And you notice that hard spaces, they get lashed out. People try to soften them with graffiti. We studied graffiti, and it's always on hard surfaces. This is a hard street. That lady is not enjoying herself. The sidewalk's right up to the street, and there's a soft space, which are firm design, by the way. And so people spend all evening on this street, window shopping, having a drink, that kind of thing. So it's a much softer space. So we make a living making hard spaces like this into soft spaces, hard spaces like that into soft spaces, hard spaces like that into soft spaces. And you can see the development response to that one. This is Chattanooga's waterfront, hard space. The city wanted a softer, more accessible waterfront. We did a vision, and the Tennessee DOT said no. In fact, there's this big debate. I won't go into the details, but they said this highway is so important that we can't change it. If not, if anything, we have to widen it to battle congestion. And we were thinking, no, there's their aquarium, by the way. We need to soften it because it's a really important part of the city. It's a barrier that cuts people off from the waterfront. And then we built this. There's the aquarium. Now it's a 2-lane street, and if you ask anybody in Chattanooga, they want the highway back and tear all this out, they would say, no, we want the better place. And they don't miss the highway. There's all this fear that if you do anything to the highway, the world's going to go to orbit. That never happens. Maintenance costs. So when you soften an environment, the maintenance costs go up, right? And cities don't have tons of money for maintenance, so that's a big fear. So build hard stuff so it's easy to maintain. But with good design, you can deal with this. Now this is the value curve. As you soften things, it takes a different trajectory. And the idea is you work in the lower part of the cost changes, you use the right materials, the right designs, the right proportions, and your maintenance costs go up a little bit, but it's a lot softer. And the big cool thing is that the value goes up tremendously. Small cost of maintenance, huge increase in value. So you can see, like in Old Town, if that were softer, or Main Street or Lawrenceville Highway in particular, if we can make it softer, the maintenance costs go up a little bit, there's no doubt about it, but the value will go way up, and the tax increment will easily cover the change in maintenance costs. And you can see that in all those previous projects that we showed you. So tonight, this is where it gets fun. And what we're going to do is, there's about 7 people at each table. The people that don't have a table, grab a chair and join a table, so this goes from 7 to 8. We left them off the end so people could see the screen, but everybody at the back, if you want to participate, join a group. And each table has you should have a map on your table. Do you have a map? Oh, did we not bring the maps? Did one of you go run back and get the maps? Oh, somebody who can unlock the city hall needs to go with them. We're good at breaking into places, but not that good. So you'll get a map in a moment, and it is the map of the study area. And then you're going to have 4 sheets of paper. Just make sure you have 4 sheets of paper. And you should have a thick Sharpie marker. So everybody got those things at least? We forgot the maps, didn't we? Anyway, so those are your tools. One person should volunteer to be the note taker. And what we want you to do is number your sheets 1 to 4, and we're going to answer one question on each of your 4 sheets. And then I'm going to show you 4 questions, and those are the questions you're going to answer. Question number 1 on the first page, question number 2 on the second, and so forth. So those are the areas we're going to be focusing on. So these are the areas I want you to talk about. The park area, West Old Town, Main Street, City Hall, Uptown. So the first question is what you like about those areas that you want to preserve. So we're starting off with a positive question for number 1. what do you like about the area you want to preserve, and just write a list of bullet points on your first page. On your second page is what you don't like, what you dislike, and what you would like to change. The third question is what's missing that you would like to see created? Trails, active ground floors, whatever you come up with, street trees, whatever comes to your mind, what's missing that you'd like to see created. And list your key values that you'd like to shape the area. And this is sort of the catch-all. Things like family-friendly, accessible, anything you think of that aligns with your values. So those are the 4 questions. We're going to leave these up so that they're handy. So that's the presentation. Those are the questions.